Bamboo fails aplenty, people misrepresenting print failures, and a Prusa that should be thermally running away but isn't. All this and more, Print Fix Friday, episode 56. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed because we talk all about print fails and how to fix them every single week right here on the channel. This is week 56, over a year of doing this every single week, and I love this because it makes me think a little bit more, and I hope that we can help newbies or even seasoned people look at fails a little bit differently. More of a learning experience and not so much a failure itself. And while I love talking all about print fails and how to fix them, there is certainly one thing I love telling you more about. It's our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. As always, guys, we are self-sponsoring these episodes until we can get a really awesome sponsor to help sponsor these videos. So if you have someone you'd like to sponsor our channel, please let me know. You can reach out to me, YouTube at 3dmusketeers.com. But we do need your help in finding print fails, so tag us on all the social media platforms, use the hashtag PrintFix, and I'll do my best to find them. Make sure that we can include them in these episodes. But if you do want to help out the efforts that we do here at 3D Musketeers YouTube channel, you can kick a couple of bucks into that creator fund over on Patreon or YouTube channel memberships. Links to all of that will be right below me. But we understand that not everybody can support financially, and a like, share, and subscribe goes a long way helping our channel get to more people, which of course means we can make more awesome videos just like this. But at 3D Musketeers, we do amazing work, whether it's 3D printing, 3D scanning, CNC milling, and now, again, finally, my laser is working. I don't want to talk about how complicated it's been, but the laser is working. Thank you, Better 3/4, for all of your assistance in this. I don't think I could have done this without you, but I am glad that we are back up and running here as close to 100% as possible. And of course, I will be at the East Coast Rep Rap Festival, and if you skip this, you won't know that I will be giving away 3D scans. So if you want to get 3D scanned and you see this in the video, come up to me and say, Victoria would like me to get scanned. And I will break out the $20,000 Artec Eva and hook you up with a scan. Now, I won't be able to send it to you that day. We will make sure to get it out to you later on. We'll have a form and all that for you to fill out. Anyways, enough of me yabbering on. If you want us to make cool stuff for you, you know how to reach out to me. And we're going to be scanning the Philadelphia Flyers, which is pretty dope, right before Earth, so that'll be cool. Probably a bit of a vlog on that coming soon. But yeah, let's jump into those fails. We got a fail from my buddy, Dave Gaylord, a vice president over at Matter Hackers. By the way, would love to interview you for a podcast, so if that's something you'd be open to, slide into them DMs somewhere. And he's got a bit of a, not a failure, a learning opportunity. I love the position that he is taking here. Ultimately, if you look at failures or a print that doesn't succeed as a way to learn and grow, well, then it's not such a big deal. Now, I do understand that he's got a little up above the average individual, that he likely has an unlimited supply of filament, with this being the blue to pink Matter Hackers Quantum, which is a co-extrusion, so it's two colors in one, which I have never played with, would love to play with it, but it's just one of those things. I don't have a massive use for it. It just looks pretty, and we do a lot of functional here and a lot less pretty these days. But I do like the way that he is approaching this. And I think if more people approached their print problems like this, we'd have a better community as a whole. What happened? Let's take a look at this photo and try to figure out what potentially went wrong. It looks like he's got a build plate on there that didn't grab. Now, this is a textured PEI plate, and you might say, Grant, why is there Prusa blue? It's because it's not a Prusa, it is the Matter Hackers Pulse, which is more expensive than a Prusa, however, is USA made or certified USA made. So if you are a company that is required to buy from a US entity, there you go. It's an option for you. This one is rough, and we have talked about this on the channel before, where it is always good to leave a webcam or a wise cam or some sort of a camera watching your prints if you're going to be printing unattended, and have a smart plug where you can just remotely kill the power and not worry too much about the print failure. Again, the loss here is not all that expensive. It's just more of the time that we deal with, but definitely a pretty fail nonetheless. Now, I'm not certain if the piece here is related. It looks like it could be. And if that is the case, I would look and say, maybe you didn't have enough friction on that textured build plate. Personally, I don't like textured build plates for PLA. I find that they do not stick, and I end up with this situation way more than I prefer to. So, in my opinion, don't use the textured build plate here. You should be okay. If you are going to use a textured build plate, it's totally fine if you want to, but you really got to make sure that first layer is squished down hard, and I would highly recommend putting a brim on that just to be certain. Now, something I am noticing that is a little interesting is some of these mounts here. It looks like we've got some laser cut parts. That is a stepper motor isolator coupler thing to get rid of stepper motor vibrations in your frame. But down here, this looks almost laser cut, as does that piece there. I don't know, maybe this is an older machine or it's a newer machine that is in some form of prototype variant. But yeah, thankfully this didn't turn into a blob of doom, so pretty much just reslice it, verify it looks like it sticks well, and send it. Don't always print in the middle, they said. The FEP will last longer, they said. Technically, they're right. Technically, they're still right, because as far as I can tell, your FEP is not damaged. Your build plate, however, has gone all cattywampus. We've got an issue, and I've actually experienced something similar myself, to where my build plate was actually spinning during a print, which was kind of terrifying, but also very interesting at the same time. What had happened for me was that one of the screws that held the ball and socket in tension stripped out, allowing it to spin freely when it was under a fair bit of force. I am guessing something similar has happened here. Now, when you do print on areas other than the middle, you will have forces on your build plate, especially Elegoo printers, because they have that ball and socket that might try to bend this, okay? And if you don't have the ball, which sits up in this region, you can see there's one bolt and another bolt on the side. If you don't have those screws properly tightened against the ball, it's just gonna move like this. And while I love Elegoo resin printers, that's basically all that we run. We have a Photon Mono X, but I have never actually used it. But you gotta really make sure that your build plate is tight. Now, looking at this, I see a lot of surface area. And if all you've done is just shifted your entire print over to one side, that's pretty problematic. If you can, and it is a multi-piece print, split it up to either side of the build plate. That way, when you're doing your peels off of your FEP sheet, that it is a little more consistent for the peel forces left and right on your build platform. Intrinsically, it should make sense, right? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. But I totally understand for someone who might be new, might not know that's the right way to do it. I am glad that Elegoo did eventually move over to these larger screws, because prior on the OG Mars, and I'm pointing to my resin farm over here that you guys can't see, because, oh yeah, resin is toxic, but resin is also a lot of fun. Previously, they used grub screws, which just pretty much a disaster from the beginning. They finally moved over to a bolt system, which to me works a lot better. Oh, and apparently they're completely misleading people. Love that. Apparently they were pretty tight. The print got stuck between the plate and got smashed. No tightening would have helped. More supports would have. And like this person said, so it has nothing to do with the reason you are complaining about in the title. Don't mislead new printers by dissing one of the best pieces of advice. Amen. And for those of you that want to make fun in your titles, make sure that you note either that it's sarcasm or you're trying to be funny, so that when someone new comes along that has this problem, they don't run into it as well. Instead, they try to be funny and they printed lots of things without a problem. This is a case they never saw before, and it's definitely caused by asymmetrical loading of supports. No, it's not. The model has a decent overhang toward the middle and no support there, which gives it leverage to break off, and then I was unlucky how it got stuck. I am totally missing the point of this, and I'm a little bit upset because I didn't read the comments, And I spent this time trying to help someone who's just being an asshole. And I don't like that, because I agree with the commenters here. You're not being good to those that actually do need help. This is a legitimate problem that could legitimately happen to those that are new that don't know what they're doing. And all you've done is just try to make fun of it, which in turn is making fun of newbies that are having problems. And that is not the system that we want here. We are open, we are inclusive, we want to have a community of people that give a damn. And this is not the right attitude. I saw this from my buddy Chris Pirillo about 20 minutes after I filmed last week's PrintFixFriday, where I had a filament wrap, and he is dealing with it here as well. We talked about it last week. It's really simple. Just make sure that when you are done with your filament, that you make sure to keep the filament tight and actually wrapped up in something like these holes here on the side of the spool. If you don't have those kind of holes, you can also print a filament clip that will just clip onto the side of your spool and hold the loose end of the filament and keep it from wrapping around itself potentially. It is an honest mistake. It happens to the best of us. And of course, Chris has been doing this for a little bit. This is on his Bambu lab. This is the top of a Bambu lab AMS. So definitely a bummer, but you know, it happens. And as John from Proper Printing says, he uses this method to find the tangles, and it does work every time. I agree. It does work every time. Next up, we got a fail submitted by a buddy of mine, Chris Catlett, who is pretty much a resin wizard. I'm so glad to have him in our Discord because he is being an absolute unit by helping out quite a few of us that have resin problems from time to time. So thank you, Chris, for all of your continued support. And that's why you are an honorary patron. So thank you for all the work that you do to help our crew, as well as our Patreon YouTube channel members out as well. Thank you, sir. Help certain parts of the print, like sheets of paper. Hello, everyone. New hobbyist using an Elegoo Saturn S here with Chitu Box. There's your first problem. And Elegoo plant-based resin. Not a huge fan of plant-based resin myself because it has a tendency to just shatter and tear randomly, like months after it's been printed. Why? Not a damn clue. It just happens. Occasionally, I'm getting prints not sticking to the base plate. I assume this is down to base layer exposure and certain parts of prints unraveling like sheets of paper. I'm using a layer height of 0.05, bottom layer count of 7, exposure time of 3.5 seconds, bottom exposure of 29 seconds. Can anyone advise on what is causing this and how to avoid it? We have a great comment here by Mr. Catlett, who is referring them to the Table Flip Foundry Discord. If you are struggling with resin prints and you do want to get some help, but you don't want to wait for a PrintFixFriday, one, of course, tag me in it so I can see it, but two, go join the Table Flip Foundry Discord. We will have this linked in the description for you as well. They have a great community, now over 1,000 strong, where you are able to get help with your resin printing. And recently, of course, we interviewed Ty from Table Flip Foundry. We'll card to his podcast episode up there. We talk all about the cones and why they are awesome. He said the common term for this is called a pancake. I like pancakes. Basically, some of the supports failed to hold the model, and the piece stuck to the FEP. Later in the print, it stuck back to the model, hence the flat pancake. If you look at the model in the slicer, the lowest point below the pancake is where you should add a few more supports. Have you tried calibrating your exposure times with a test print like the cones of calibration? I would highly recommend it. I agree. It's awesome. 29-second bottom exposure may be too low. You can increase it in 5-second steps until the part sticks well. And he's got some videos and a playlist that we will link in the description down below. Absolutely amazing advice once again from one of the masters of resin that I know, Mr. Chris Catlett. Next up, we got a Bambu lab failure. One of the worst that I have seen when it comes to layer shifts with these X1 printers. Now, I get it. We've shown a lot of Bambu lab failures here on the channel. People might say, oh, Grant, you're just a Bambu lab hater. And I'm not, but I think there's a pretty hardcore flaw in these machines. And I don't know if this one specifically is dealing with it. To me, it's the gosh darn poop chute, and it doesn't clear the material. We're gonna see a print failure later on in the episode that I firmly believe is from a poop chute problem. This one I'm not certain. Now, this layer shift is significant, but something to point out here, that even though this is way bridging and completely unsupported on one side, it actually did a pretty decent job. Now, I can't immediately see what happened here or why this would have occurred, but this is a torture toaster from what I can tell. And what that likely means is one of these little pieces here broke or was warping up a little bit, and when the printer moved, it collided. And when the printer collides like that, some printers like the Prusas and other machines that have higher boards are able to detect that and try to fix themselves. I do believe the Bambu does not detect that type of failure and just tries to print through it. Now, they do apparently have their own AI fail detection, but clearly it did not work here. Now, maybe it did later on, but I don't know about you, but any of the print fail softwares out there, whether it's Quinley Vision, Obico, Octo Everywhere, I feel like all of these would have solved this better. And so this brings me to the point of do one thing really well. I do believe that Bambu Lab has a damn good printer. I'm still giving them the probationary period. I want to see one in person. Thankfully, one of our local Patreon members is going to get one. So that means I'm probably going to bum it off of him for a video or something where I can screw around with it, or he can come and hang out and we can film the video together. That might be kind of cool. I think that would be fun. Aaron, let's figure this out. Or maybe don't show this video to your wife because I'm not exactly certain if she knows you're getting this printer. Sorry. It doesn't look like there's a reason for this thing to purge material. It's all the same color from what I can tell. So there's no reason for it to use the poop chute. If it does, I don't understand why, but failures like this that are common with the Bambu Lab printer where you get some of these layer shifts, it is normally because the poop chute is not adequately dropping out the plastic and it is building up, and the nozzle's getting caught on it, creating the layer shift. How to solve this? I really don't know because I don't exactly know the failure mode. I can take some guesses like, okay, turn on Z-Hop if it isn't already on and make sure, especially if you're gonna run this printer in ludicrous mode, that you do properly give it enough Z-Hop so when it moves, it has no chance of contacting things. When you're trying to print fast, I would want to see Z-Hop of at least 1 millimeter. And I know that that is excessive, right? It is incredibly excessive for most printers. But the amount of time that it takes for the Z-axis to get out of the way for then X and Y to go ahead and move is considerably less than the amount of time that they just lost on this print. Now, mind you, it is a Bambu Lab, so this is probably like 25 minutes of printing, so it ain't that bad, but still pain in the ass to see on the internal camera. Next up, we got a video. This was originally from Facebook, and unfortunately, the original post has been deleted. Let's take a look at this. Why is this still printing? Like, honestly, this is so bad. What the actual hell is going on here? Is this thing printing oil? I want to note something. There are like burn lines here. This is obviously a Prusa Mini. We can tell because of the way that it is. And we were able to get the text from it. It said, one of 6 partially assembled minis I've put together. The hot end is running away while the thermistor struggles to read 200, causing this insanity. Seems thermal runaway is failing on this one. Yep, there is absolutely no reason that the printer should not have already gone into thermal. Well, no. The printer won't go into thermal runaway because the hot end thinks it's at the correct temperature. Most likely we've got a wiring problem or we've got a problem with the thermistor inside of the hot end itself. So let's talk about those 2 potential problems. Problem number 1. We have a wiring problem. This was a mostly assembled Prusa Mini Plus, which means that the gantry came separate from the base. And I actually raced to build a Prusa Mini against the better 3/4 in a very old video on the channel, but we'll card to it so you guys can take a look. She was within 15 minutes of me, and that should tell you how easy these printers are to build, especially with the instructions that they provide. But I don't remember having to install the thermistor myself. It came factory installed, but I do remember having to wire it myself. And if for some reason I didn't wire it properly, it might not have a great connection, causing the problem that we see here. Now, first off, You knew this was a problem way before it got this bad, and you should have never let this thing print this long. This is dangerous to your build plate, it is dangerous to your printer, and quite frankly, it's dangerous to your health. Now, the printer won't go into thermal runaway because it believes it's barely getting to 200, but it's probably well over 300 or even 400 degrees centigrade at this point. Aluminium, for all those across the pond, melts at much higher than 400 degrees centigrade. We'll put the number right here so you guys know how hot it is. I don't know off the top of my head, though. So you wouldn't see this melting just yet, and because the heat sink is, well, a heat sink, it is going to take away that excess heat that the hot end will be producing. But this is disgusting, and I know that you probably did it for the street cred, but dude, come on. Like, I don't know why the actual hell somebody would let this run, but I would guess because this isn't a fully kit printer, and it's not a factory assembled printer, that the connection for the thermistor to the motherboard is loose. Check the JST pins that it uses. Sometimes when you insert the connector, it can push one of the pins out, and a connection that isn't perfect could result in a wrong reading. And in fact, the latest beta firmware for the Mark III's kind of addresses this problem, where it looks for heater anomalies. If during a print, your heater spikes or dips for even a few milliseconds, the firmware will alert you to the fact that it happened. If it happens multiple times, it will pause the printer, let you know that a heat anomaly has occurred, and then allow you to decide if you're going to continue the print or stop the print. This actually all happened on the latest Prusa Live, which we will card to so you guys can take a look at it, and you'll see yours truly showed up in there as an honorable mention for the prints of the week with my Hurricane Ian adapter for my downspout. Very cool. That was a really awesome project, and it worked phenomenally well. I don't know when we're going to release the B-roll of me taking one of our waterproof cameras out into the hurricane, but that's coming soon. So make sure you get subscribed if you guys want to see. Maybe I'll put it into next week's PrintFixFriday. But yeah, that's just bad. That's just bad. Next up, a fail from my good buddy, future podcast guest, because we still have never nailed down a time, who I am excited to be giving a high five to potentially today or tomorrow, Mr. Joel, telling himself with a Bambu Lab X1 carbon failure. He says sometimes you wake up and find massive success, other times you wake up to this. Now again, I don't understand why, if the Bambu Lab has the AI fail detection, if it didn't trigger here, it should know. But given that we have two different colors occurring here, my best bet is, like we said earlier, it is a poop shoot problem where it failed to get rid of all of that material. I believe that is the fatal flaw of the current Bambu Lab, and I would be curious to see if they are going to do some sort of user upgradable hardware revision to solve this problem, or if I should just attach a freaking shop vac to my Bambu Lab that I don't have. I don't have one of those. I don't have one of those. Not yet. Maybe soon. I don't know. But as a user, there's really no good way to prevent this, and that's the kind of failure that frustrates me, and I'm sure frustrates Joel among many other users that have come into this problem. Because unless you're going to sit there and babysit this freaking printer to make sure that it poops cleanly, there's really no way to guarantee success on this. And you would again hope that its AI fail detection would detect this, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it has. Now, maybe Joel and the other person have both disabled it because it does have a tendency to be a little overzealous, but as I've talked about before, I'd rather it trigger when it doesn't need to versus not triggering when it absolutely needs to. I don't really know. And because it comes out of the back of the printer, if you want to put these printers in a print farm atmosphere, I don't really know how I would handle dealing with these scraps. I think honestly, a shop vac is one of the best ways to do it. And I guess you could somehow G-code trigger it. I don't know. Or you just put it on a timer, so every 15 minutes or so it turned on for 5 seconds. I don't know. Just an idea if you were going to be running a bunch of these printers, because I do believe that is its current Achilles heel. Now, I do believe that Bambu Lab is going to solve this problem. I know that they are aware of it, so we'll see what happens in the future. I'm keeping my eye on them for sure. How do I prevent these tall supports from appearing? They're not featured on the smaller holes. Thanks. First off, enable snug supports, and I think that will solve your problem completely. Oh, look at that. Completely there. And snug resolve the issue. There you go. See, gotta love it. I don't know why PrusaSlicer defaults to grid instead of snug. Snug supports are just better, and if you disagree with me, find me at Earth and let's have a conversation. Because honestly, there is no valid reason to use anything but snug supports inside of PrusaSlicer. Now, we do know that tree supports are coming soon, TM, to PrusaSlicer. So if you are a tree support fan person, well, your prayers will be answered soon enough. And I love this. That's pretty much all we got for this one. Nice and simple. Snug supports are the savior once again. Do note for a print like this appears to be holding some sort of rod stock material of sorts. If you are going to print it in this vertical orientation, your Z-axis will be the weakest, so just be prepared. I do personally believe that snug supports solve all the problems that I have when it comes to support generation in 3D printing, but that's just my personal feeling. I'd love to know what you guys think of snug supports, as well as this continual issue with the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon having problems. I don't know if it is just I see those failures more often, or if it legitimately is a problem. I'd love to know what you guys think down in those comments below. But that's all I got for you guys on this PrintFix Friday. And if you are going to Earth this weekend, come and find me and say hi. Love to meet some of our fans out in the wild and take a selfie or something. I don't know, that seems weird, but I'll be there and we'll have cameras. So if you want to be in a future episode, let me know. We'll maybe interview some people. It looks like we're going to be interviewing the Positron guys, since they're literally DMing me right now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Don't bring home any weird malware from Earth. You know what I'm talking about. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. I like pancakes. Speaking of which, I really want to get a pancake bot. For no other reason than the opener for that video would be, never have I had a 3D printer this sweet. I take a bite of the pancake and we roll the intro, because that would be fun. Hey, thanks for watching this video, and thank you to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel member supporters for your continued support in what we do here on this channel. We wouldn't be able to make these videos without your support. Remember, if you do want to support the efforts here, you can join our Patreon or YouTube channel members. Clicking those links in that description down below helps us out greatly. Right below me will be the entire PrintFix Friday series, and next to that will be my review of the Prusa Mini Plus. I will see you guys down in those comments and in the next one. Take care.